What's going on, everybody? Wilson here, your spiritual hype man. I'm super happy to be back. I'm super happy to be here with my special guest, Michael Granum. Say what's up, Michael.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing, Wilson?
That's right, doing great, dude. I love Michael. Michael is such a great character, great person in the community that we have. I met him, I think probably over a year ago now, right, Michael? Probably a little bit longer than that.
If I had to guess, we met first way back at over there at the restaurant for the networking group.
Oh yeah, that's right, that's right. That was a good one.
It's pushing 3 years now.
Okay, pushing
Yeah,
3 years. Yeah, it's just a phenomenal guy. Like when you walked into the room, same thing. You have this energy that I feel like when people see you walk in, like there's just an energy that you elude. And since then, I think we've always vibed.
yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
That's right. And so, tell the audience a little bit. What do you do? Like, what do you provide right now for the people? How do you help people with what you got going on?
Yeah, my name is Michael Granum, as Wilson mentioned. I'm actually owner of Good Vibes Nutrition, and we actually provide an environment. Think of like a healthy bar where we focus on health, happiness, and community, getting people together, getting people off their phones. I also refer to us as the center of Palm Coast, where people can build relationships, network with each other, and get people off their phones. I know we're on our phones now doing this interview.
That's
But
right.
anyway, we've come to a world nowadays where people are so concentrated on their phones and looking down at their phones. You go to a restaurant, you see families and friends just looking down at their phone and not connecting with each other. And I think that's why you and I connected so well because we have this we realize what's going on in the world and the personal connections are missing. So I wanted to provide an environment for that.
Yeah, awesome. It's a great perspective. And then for the viewers, if you're just listening, if you're new, or even for Michael, like a quick overview of Nothing Changes, and I think it falls right into what we're going to talk about. Even being reflective, being in the moment is the influence, the thought, the emotion, the decision, the action, and then the outcome. So for us, in terms of Nothing Changes, is what is the influence, what's the thought, and then what emotion comes from that thought, and then that decision, like that emotion usually drives an action or a decision, and then that gets you to a certain place, a certain outcome. And so the idea for Nothing Changes is just to start realizing, becoming conscious and aware of what are these outcomes we're not happy with, and then going back and reverse engineering what was the influence, what was the thought, what was the emotion, and then really start working on things like that. And it's different for everybody, right? It's the same type, like different lines, but it's really, I would say, if you boil it down to all the basic needs, it's basically the same thing that we have to figure out, and or what we're looking for. So
Yes.
that being said, what drives you to help people like that and to get people off the phones to become present? Is there something in your past and your present in terms of your life that you worked on? What was a situation that maybe you came to that you were like, I'm not happy with it, I want to turn around?
Yeah. So a couple things. First of all, my mom passed away when I was 14. I think that's when everything started for me because my mom had cancer. She passed away very young. She was 36. And so, but she was always a positive person, always loved to help people. And so that was kind of my first exposure to kindness, helping, reaching out, helping people through situations and so forth. But fast forward about back in 2017, 2018, I ended up losing 100 pounds in 6 months. And leading up to that, I was having tightness in my chest. I was having night terrors. I was having a lot of issues. I just felt like at the age of 40, 46, 47, that I wasn't going to make it till 55 because I was almost 360 pounds.
Damn.
The final straw during that period of time, my wife woke up screaming 2 o'clock in the morning, and I turned on the light and I was standing on the bed, standing over top of her. Now, you've met my wife. She's all of 100 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love and adore my wife. I'm one of the rare ones, probably.
Yeah,
But
me
I
too.
wife, and
Yeah.
if I hurt her in any way, I would not be able to live with myself. And so the next day I told her, I said, something's got to change. Something has to change. She encouraged me to see a doctor. I knew a doctor would probably pump me full of medication. So I told her, I said, you know what? I'm going to meet with my pastor. And I ended up meeting with him, and we sat down, studied some scriptures, and I started feeling a little bit better. So I felt like there's a spiritual battle going on along with a physical battle,
Hmm.
and I started feeling a little bit better spiritually through that meeting with him. But about a week later, I ended up running into a couple that I had met on Facebook. Didn't know them, but I saw what they were doing to help people lose weight,
Yeah.
and ended up getting started on a nutrition program, specifically Herbalife nutrition program. Ended up losing 100 pounds. Now, the reason that happened was because of my mindset of I had to draw a line in the sand, and I had to get to a point where there's my wife never said anything about my weight, but I had to decide for myself that I couldn't live like this. I had to do something. I had to change something. And so that's what I did. And since then, has it been easy? No, it hasn't been easy. But the fact is that I want to live longer. I want to spend time with people. And I see that in other people's eyes that whether, a lot of people, most people don't need to lose 100 pounds. But I see people that are they need to make decisions in their life and they're looking for an example of that, if you will.
Mm.
And so they come to that good vibes nutrition for that to be around us that have made decisions in our life to live a healthier life to focus on our health. So
Yeah, no, that's well, it's incredible the whole journey. There's lots in there. First with your mom, and obviously second with your wife, and then wanting to make that change. Let's talk about the change of wanting to lose that first, and then let's go back a little bit to, with mom after. Um, uh, for most people, I feel like there's these moments that equate to either breaking, like for me, I've most recently been stuck on breaking the relationship of, right? So we've all been in a relationship with someone or something that we're like we are done feeling this way and it's time to make a change. And then you all of a sudden push yourself to then start making these changes in terms of whatever they're at, right? Like that action, that emotion that drives you to make those different actions. So for
yes,
you, what it was like, what I hear is it was fear of ultimately potentially heading like hurting your wife by accident, right? Was that the moment like that when you were talking? Like, is that what it was?
that is the exact moment that I can pinpoint
Mm,
that I was like, you know what, I'm changing now.
mm.
And I didn't know how I was going to change. I didn't know what, I knew I needed to lose weight, but I made that decision. She didn't say that I needed to lose the weight, but I had to make that decision. So that was the pinpoint moment. Yes.
And then to take me then after that, as soon as you made like what did you seek? You said you were just trying to figure it out, and then you did to go and talk with the pastor after, or
Yeah, so I mean that this conversation with my wife occurred on a Sunday. I sent my pastor a message. We ended up meeting on Thursday, and I started taking action.
mm,
So I knew first I had that I didn't really realize I was tackling the spiritual part first,
mm,
but that's what I was doing is attacking the spiritual part first. I'm a very spiritual person. I was raised Baptist from. I mean, I probably gave my life to Christ 10 times before the age of 8.
right,
Uh, so I knew, and not to mention, I didn't tell you this, was leading up to the point where I made that decision. When I was having those night terrors, I'd wake up and there would be a dark, shadowy figure over top of me. I even got into a fight one night in our bedroom with this dark, shadowy figure. My wife turns on the light and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm fighting. Something is in the room." And she says, "There's nothing in the room." So
whoa,
spiritual battle going on, and I knew I needed to approach that first. But from that point forward, after that, it seemed to be once I made the decision, things started lining up. So, meeting with my pastor, feeling a little bit better, and then following that, randomly running into this couple that I didn't know from the Man in the Moon at an event. It was actually a networking event. We didn't go there. My brother owned his business. I worked with my brother, but we went to support a friend that opened the business, but they just happened to be there.
right,
And so everything started moving. Once I made that decision spiritually and physically, things started kind of almost lining up for me.
yeah,
I think that's true in life. When you finally make a decision, things start to I don't want to say go your way all the time, but
right,
you'll start to see signs, and that
yeah.
that okay, this is the next step. This is where I'm supposed to go, so forth.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree. Like once you start putting that intention, or even that frequency, right? The waves of energy, or whatever you want to call it, how however people want to talk about it or whatever it is,
Exactly.
yeah, it's super powerful, and you start becoming more aware of it. Now, what were you battling? So like I know it's spiritual, but what were the things that you've kind of started going through? Because here's I think another important part of being a human being is having time to reflect on these things. Right? Like if you don't reflect and we're just sort of on this, we got to keep doing the same thing over and over and we just keep going and being reactive, I think it leads to not being able to reflect on it and then sometimes not even becoming aware of the things that we're battling ourselves like unconsciously. So what were you like do you know like have you reflected on that or
As far as like leading up to my decision or after making a decision.
I said I guess leading up to it like what were those dark figures, like I'm sure if obviously whether they're physical or like was there anything internal that you would reflect on that could be something that you still needed to work through?
Absolutely. So leading up to that point, you know, we all hear these stories about people passing away in their sleep. Don't know why, don't know what happened, anything like that. And so, as far as leading up to that point, I think there was a spiritual aspect, as I mentioned, that was preparing to take my life. Now, what does that equate to in the physical? Basically, sleep apnea, being overweight. I believe my air circulation was cutting off. I probably snored a lot. My wife probably didn't say a whole lot to me about that, but being 360 pounds, having issues with my back, being pre-diabetic,
Mm.
just a lot of issues going on. And I thought for sure, I'm going to die before the age of 55. Thought for sure. I would have put money on it. Every day I would think about, am I going to die today?
Yeah.
And by the way, when I was 23, I was diagnosed with a heart AFib,
Mm.
which basically means my heart would speed up, slow down, stop. It's almost like a misfire in a car.
Yep.
And it wasn't like painful, but I knew it was occurring because I would be very tired. I would feel like this flutter in my chest. And that started when I was 23. Doctors said it was basically alcohol and caffeine.
Okay.
Not that I was a big partier, but we would go out on the weekends and have a good time. And then I would drink a lot of coffee and so forth the next morning. And the first time it happened on a Monday. And I went to the hospital, and they kept me, they pumped me, and they said, "Listen, all we could figure out is it's too much alcohol, too much caffeine. We recommend you cut back on that." And so throughout my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, it started to happen more frequently. So at first, like my 20s is like once a year. Then my 30s, it was like 2 or 3 times a year. And by the time I was in my 40s, it was almost a monthly thing. And
Damn.
when I finally made that decision again to lose the weight, it didn't happen immediately. But once I started losing my weight, within 6 months, it was completely gone. And I haven't had it since.
Man, congrats. That's a great feeling, right? To say that. To
So,
say you didn't feel it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel amazing. So.
That's cool. So, look, what were you dealing with then before in terms of like what was because I feel like some people that get into that whether it's overweight or just overuse of either drugs, alcohol. Because I've been there, right, with the drugs and alcohol part of it. Like, what was that something unconscious, conscious that you later on, or was it just part of like how you grew up, influenced thought, emotion in terms of like eating more or not working out as much and partying more? Like, what was that like?
I mean, a couple things that I look back on my life, like you said, I like how you talk about like looking back, hindsight on what was going through mentally,
Hmm.
so forth. Um, Two things stands out in my mind. One, when my mom passed away, I was actually pretty decent size, if you will. But from that point forward, I think losing my mom at the age of 14, she was pretty much the emotional part of the parents. My dad was more logical, more structured. My mom was the love, and so
The
like
hug, right? The hug
like
that you need.
a lot of people do. I had that void missing in my life, which was my mom, and I've tried to fill that void with food. And so that's where the drugs, the cigarettes, the alcohol, the pornography, the gambling, the food, the stuff like that in anybody's life,
Hmm.
they're trying to fill that void, right? And so that in connection also with, I was raised in my house, you finished everything on your plate, everything.
Right,
Okay.
right,
That stuck with me to this day. I still have to eat every single piece of food on my plate. You will never see a plate that is have a piece of food left.
right,
Okay.
right, right.
Now, what that also equates to is if I'm looking at eating with my wife and she has food left on her plate, typically I end up munching on what she has left on her plate.
Right.
So that's, and so those are things that were between programming and the emotional, that I believe put me into that. I always turn to food for emotion. Okay.
Hmm.
Some people, again, they'll turn to alcohol or drugs. And I truly believe one of my philosophies in life, I want to write a book one day, that every single person on this planet has an addiction.
Mm.
Don't let anybody fool you. They have an addiction. You may not see what their addiction is. My addiction, you could see what my addiction was because it was on the outside of my body.
Yeah,
But some
it's visual.
people, either it's alcohol or drugs or marijuana or whatever it is, okay?
Yeah,
Sometimes you can't tell unless you catch them off guard in a private situation or something, you know?
yeah,
And so all addictions start with our mind and our mentality and what we're trying to cope with. And the reason we use that addiction is to escape from the reality. It takes us back to a comfort place.
100%.
That's why addictions are so hard to overcome because we're longing for that fill to fill us, and we're longing for that. Uh, um, we're longing for, I guess the best way to say it is that to fill that void in our life or
Yeah,
that comfort. That's what I was looking for. The comfort in our life. Now, unfortunately, the drug or the alcohol or the food or the cigarettes, whatever our addiction is, it could be eating toilet paper. You see those shows about people doing strange addictions,
right.
but ultimately those addictions are what's going to put us in a grave earlier than we should have been. And so for me, my addiction's food, and I still have to cope with that. I have to cope with it every single day. It's not that my addiction's any worse or greater or less than anybody else's addiction. We all have to choose how we're going to tackle the addiction and how we're going to overcome the addiction. And believe it or not, usually overcoming addiction, which will be another chapter in my book, is filling it with another addiction to something else, addiction to working out,
Yeah,
addiction to, whatever, kindness,
yeah,
giving, addiction to giving, addiction to supporting, addiction to something else that's positive, that's outside of ourselves.
yeah.
And so, but
And
yeah,
so let me ask, what would that be for you right now then? What's your opposite addiction to the food now?
two things. One, I actually look forward to working out. Me and my brother meet Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at 6 a.m. We go to the gym. We work out for an hour. It's kind of our time together.
Awesome.
Also on Friday night, I usually hit the gym. Saturday morning, we do a fit camp at our
Yep.
nutrition club. So we get together almost 30 people now and work out free. We provide that for free, which it fills my second addiction, which is giving. I give nonstop. And I'm not saying that to brag.
Yeah.
I do. I just feel so good when I give. And especially in my setting with my nutrition club, where we're focused on that health and happiness and community. I love, absolutely love, and have addiction to getting people together and supporting each other, talking, engaging. I love when I get addicted to when this person meets this person for the first time and then they go to church together or I had a couple that met at Good Vibes Nutrition that is actually married today. They met a couple years ago. They got married this November of 2024. That I love that. I
Yeah.
love when people can point and say, you know what, I met that person at Good Vibes. So
Right.
that's my second addiction.
Yeah, no, absolutely, dude. Every time we walk in, it is like the cheers, right? Except the non-alcoholic good vibe nutrition cheers.
Yes.
Everybody does know your name, and if we don't, then you're definitely the person to connect people. I'm a witness and a testament to that. So
Yeah.
I can definitely say I appreciate the fact of who you are and then what you bring to the community, which is great. So let me ask too, in terms of giving. And again, this I want to circle back through. Remember, influence, thought, emotion, action, decision, outcome. Influence, was your mom that type of way in terms of giving? Was that what you grew up with? Where did that come from? Where is that like an innate thing growing up with your parents, or specifically more mom?
Yeah, specifically my mom. I mean, my dad was just always a hard worker. So,
Right,
I'm sure he gave in his own way. I mean,
right. His time, work, money, right? And he's like, I got to
yeah,
be a provider, right, right,
yeah.
right.
I mean, my dad, showed me how to work hard and showed me how to treat a woman,
Yeah,
which is very important. I think men need to be shown how to treat a woman.
I agree.
You're guessing or you're doing it at the absolute wrong way. Okay. And so I'm very confident with that because of what he showed me and then how I treat my wife for our boys to see. Um, but
Wait,
my mom,
wait, can we stay on that for a second? So what would that be like if you were to share somebody with the listeners out there? What is that for you? Like, how would you then explain that to your boys?
so first of all, I mean, depends on the stage. Like if you're dating someone, in the beginning, like if you're longing for love and to find the right person, the special person, I tell all the young people all the time, like, listen, if you're looking for someone special, if you're hooking up the first night, that's not the person. It's not.
It's
Okay,
most likely never not gonna happen that way, right?
yeah, you're gonna like whatever, get them knocked up and then try to get married. It's not gonna work. It's just not.
Yeah.
Now, if you're dating someone and you're with them, um, you know, focus on, you know, focus on what they're good at. With my wife, for example, she's really great at things that I'm not great at. And I'm always complimenting her, or I'll send her a random text. I mean, you've been to Good Vibes. She writes on every single cup a
Yeah.
quote.
Amazing.
And I cannot do that. I could write on 10 cups and I'm done. I'm not.
Yeah, right.
I love the idea and like I want people. She just does it, doesn't complain about it.
And it's
So
a huge part. It's a huge part of what people enjoy. Like
yeah,
every time I go, like there's always like an alignment too when I get the cup and I read it. I'm like, fuck, how did you guys know? You know what
yeah.
I mean? Like, so
And
yeah.
I've had people like get a cup and leave and call me crying,
Yeah.
saying, "You, my so and so passed away. My sibling
Yeah.
passed away, and this was their favorite quote, and it's even in the color that they it was their favorite color."
That's
So,
crazy.
but my wife, you know, nobody's perfect.
Right.
Absolutely nobody on the planet is perfect, and so you got to find the people that are. Um, the opposite of you and that you can appreciate the things that the opposite of you. Obviously, you have to have some things that are in alignment
Right.
with each other. But, you know, another thing, I think if you're with someone for a while, okay, and I would say like more than a year, like there should never be a reason why you don't go on a date once a week. Where it's just the two of you for 1 hour. It doesn't even have to be at a restaurant. It could be, buying some subs and going and sitting by the water somewhere, sitting at a.
Yeah. Yeah. Watching
But
Netflix in the car by the beach off
yeah,
Flagler, 6th Avenue in
listen,
Flagler.
me and my wife have been together for since '93, so we've been together for 32 years. Okay, we've been married 30 years. Every day in the morning, I say, "Good morning, beautiful."
Hmm.
Now, every man should talk to their wife as if he's flirting with a girlfriend, a new girlfriend. And that's what I think when I'm texting my wife in the morning. Good morning, beautiful. Or if I don't get a chance, sometimes I don't get a chance because she goes to bed early. She wakes up at like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning and runs 4 miles. So sometimes she'll go to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock at night. In fact, right when we got on this Zoom
She's
call,
sleeping.
no, she was just getting ready to. She came in and say goodnight. I love you.
Uh,
So in the afternoon, I just say, "How's your afternoon going?" Because I want her to know I'm thinking about her. or I'll say I can't wait for this weekend because we do our date night is Saturday, and it's not even at night. Guess what? It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but we call it date night, and our boys ask us, "How was date night? Where did you go?" So they're for lack of a better word, programmed to know it's important. And my boys, I'll tell you right now, my boys know who number one is, and that's my wife. It's over there. She is far above where they are in standing.
Yeah, yeah.
I want it to be that way. I want them to know that she's number one in my life. It's God, my wife, and then they fall somewhere down there with the dog. I, but I think as people get older or they've been with each other long, it could get boring,
Mhm.
and so you do have to get creative. You have to, I'll send little text messages. That's kind of our fun thing to do back and forth. Like I'll say, "Don't tell my girlfriend," or "Don't tell my wife,"
I
and
love
I'm
that.
talking to my wife. I'll say,
Yeah.
"Don't tell." I'm looking forward to our next cruise, or I'll tell her when I'm not in a good mood, or maybe I'm depressed about something, and I'll say, "Tell me something that we're looking forward to," something, I don't know, and it spices things up, and of course the bedroom stuff you got to keep that spicy, and
Yeah.
do, but so anyway, that's that.
No, man, I think it's important. And even talking about sex, I think that's super important to, because 9 out of 10 times that could be, sex and money is sometimes an issue or the
Yep.
biggest issues in relationships. So I think that's important. And I think that's great. All right. So to recap, let's recap. As far as teaching the boys or the influence is to make sure that you find somebody that has similar but also uh opposite values that both you like enhances both of you guys in a relationship, right? I think that's
Exactly.
important. And then being able to be aware of that. And then keeping things interesting, I think, is the number two one, right? Which is I love the fact that you still do the texting. And I like the perspective that you gave in terms of almost like thinking that you're flirting with a girlfriend because that is your girlfriend. Even if she may be a wife or, years of whatever, that is your girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I love that. And I think it's funny because Patty and I used to do a lot of that too, but because we work so close, sometimes I see it now. Talk, it's like there's not enough of that I think that, I now need to like work that in and become conscious of that. So you became a great influence on me, Mike, just in less than 25 minutes, man. And Patty will thank you. I know Patty will thank you for it. So I appreciate you for that. As far as what I'd like to do is I think maybe we can bring you back. Can we do a part two? Is that cool?
Absolutely.
And,
I
and
love
then
it.
yeah, and then let's focus on because I definitely want to go through so because I think we touched base a little bit of what you were going through. I definitely want to touch base on now that you were conscious of the change and then what happened that night, how you went through it, the things that you went through mentally, and then how you're still able to sustain it, and then what you're still working through. Um, Now, just as far as guess for the last part of the segment here, as far as mom and or losing someone, if someone is going through that right now and it's more recent for someone, what is something that you can provide to them, some thoughts behind that in terms of how they can get through that if they're dealing with some type of emotion. I understand that like, emotion sometimes it's you have to feel it, you have to sort of be in that moment and because people will tell you till they're blue in the face, it'll be fine, it'll be okay. But and you're living through it, so it's sometimes I think harder, easier said than done, kind of thing on in that. But for anybody that may have gone through it or is going through it, what's your perspective, and how would you give them kind of like a couple of words of wisdom and or inspiration?
So the biggest thing I think I would say is to keep in mind one, and everybody has heard this, there's a mourning period. There has to be a mourning period because if you don't mourn now, okay, at some point you're going to break down and you'll be forced to mourn later. So I'm not saying to rush it, but there has to be a mourning period for that person, okay, whether it's a parent, a spouse, uh, child, anybody. Um, you know, my mom has been the only person that I've personally known that I was with when she passed away.
Mm.
And there was a period of time like I was just numb. Everything was, even at 14, like it was like the world completely like shifted. Everything looked different. It was in the middle of summer, July 31st, 1986, that she passed away. And I just remember when I got home, the color of the trees looked different,
Mm.
color of the house looked different, the driveway looked different. And through the period of time of my own personal mourning, luckily it was during the summer, so I didn't have school to contend with and so forth.
Mm.
But even at 14, I realized a couple of things. One, that if whether you believe in God or the universe, or it's really all one thing, okay? But to realize, one, everything happens for a reason, okay? And two, that every single cell in my body, 50% came from my mom.
Mm.
So that enters the immortality part, that my mom still lives on. You follow me?
Love
So
that.
mom still lives on in my children. My mom still lives on me. My mom still lives on in our grandchildren. And so she's still here. Physically, she's not here. Spiritually, I mean, physically, her own physical body's not here.
Right.
Inside of me, physically, she's still here.
Yeah.
Inside of me, the spiritual part, she's still here. And so, I think those are the two things that everybody's different. Everybody's different. Everybody processes things differently. But definitely taking the time to mourn that person and to realize that their purpose was whatever you remember them for, their purpose was planted inside of you also. So,
So it
yeah.
lives on. Yeah, I know. I agree. That's great. That's beautiful. I feel the same way. I feel like, with anyone or something like a parent, or even anybody that may not be a parent, there's something that they left behind for you specifically,
Yeah.
right?
It could be a thought. It could be a thought. It could be a saying that that parent or person had that is inside of your brain now, and they are part of you. They're part of who you are. You know,
Exactly.
you should, I don't want to say be excited, thankful is the
Mm.
word. Be thankful that you did have time with. I'm thankful that I had the time with my mom, the 14 years. Listen, I was a snot-nosed brat teenager when she passed away. I remember my mom when she fought cancer. She fought cancer for 2 years. And I remember her never complaining,
Mm.
never whining about her situation. She would be reading books, and one of the books I just remember they were all positive, motivating books. But she was reading a book by Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking. And guess what? Listen, I mean, I'm not bragging. I'm one of the most positive people that I know.
Yeah, you are.
I mean, I, I it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I don't get depressed. It doesn't
Right.
mean that I don't have bad days or get mad or anything like that. But I long for positivity. I long for encouragement, to give encouragement to others. And so all that came from my mom. Now, even though she's gone and she's been gone for many years now, that's still inside of me. That's still inside my brother, you know? So,
Crazy. So let's give a quick shout out to mom. Okay. Big shout out to your mom because
yeah.
her
Very,
influence, right? For 14 years of your life, of the influence that you've had has translated to years much later on that you now give and provide. So your influence, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions and decisions to do what you're doing has definitely equaled the change and the change in other people's lives.
that's exactly why I call my business Good Vibes, because I I don't know. Only thing I can stem it from is my mom. Okay, and again, my dad was a positive person.
Yeah.
He worked a lot,
Right.
so like, but the positivity. Uh, I've always longed for drama-free, positive, living life, good vibes. Like just no drama. Like to have no drama for 24 hours. And if I can open a business and create the most positive environment that you've ever seen, how can somebody possibly come in and crap on my day or my business in a business called Good Vibes, where I'm saying, hello, welcome to Good
Yeah,
Vibes,
that's right.
Friday, even
That's
on
right.
Tuesday, you know?
That's right. All right, Michael, I appreciate you. Thanks for the time. We're gonna get back. We're gonna do an episode 2, so make sure you guys come back for that. Shout out to Mama Good Vibes. Someone call her Mama Good Vibes because she was it, right? So let's get to it. Guys, remember it's all on our heads. Change the way we think, change the prompts, and don't forget nothing changes until you do. And we'll see you on the next one. Peace.